Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. Inter Miami closes out a 2-1 victory against FC Porto. 4 points, 1 point away from clinching a spot in the next round. Inter Miami has just beaten the Portuguese Giants. It is Inter Miami's day. My co-host Sora will join me in a second, and I am just going to take a minute to enjoy this because what a game, what a performance. Inter Miami, 4 points in this group, a 2-1 victory, and by the way, a deserved 2-1 victory. They got what I would consider a very tough call. 8 minutes in, a very soft penalty on Noah Allen converted by Samu. And then it was all Inter Miami for the next 70 minutes. They get 2 goals early in the second half, and then they hold on in the final 20 minutes. Inter Miami 2-1. Soar, how you feeling?
We belong.
Absolutely.
And we deserve that victory. It wasn't a smash and grab. It wasn't us sitting in the back in a low block defending for our lives. We went toe-to-toe with a European powerhouse, and Inter Miami came out on top in that game. Phenomenal game. Every single player should be proud of finishing that game in the 97th minute because everyone was so good. So many thoughts, but my goodness, Inter Miami showed up on the world stage. We not only played against the best, we competed against the best, and now we've beaten some of the best. 4 points, man. We're so close to qualifying. But I think before we even discuss what the future looks like in the Club World Cup, this game was exactly how Inter Miami was supposed to play it. We locked it down and honestly should have won this 2-0.
3-0. I thought there was a third goal in here. I got nervous that they stopped going for it in the last 20 minutes. I totally understand.
Yeah.
But then I was like, that third goal would make me feel really safe right now, and I feel very unsafe.
But it wasn't at any
minutes.
point where I thought like Inter Miami's really going to concede a goal. Yes, we were under a little bit of pressure and I was nervous, of course, but it didn't feel like, it's going like we are going to concede no matter what. They didn't have too many clear-cut opportunities that Ustari had to save. Like Al-Ali had in the first half in the last game. Porto never threatened us the same way, and Inter Miami just were resilient throughout.
They had 2 chances in the first half. Samu outpaced Ian Frey and got a shot off, and it went right into the chest of Oscar Scotty. Nice save there. And then the big one, Rodrigo Mora, tricky around the 6-yard box, and then Maxi Falcone just on the back line. That's the third time we've seen him do this year. To save a 1-0 deficit that turns into a 2-1 win. So huge moment there for Maxi Falcone. But I agree with you. Those were it. And then obviously the penalty, that was it. And the call that they earned the penalty on, I thought was terribly soft. CONMEBOL referee, but UEFA VAR, no doubt in my mind. They were the better team. They were the better team.
Absolutely. And it's so poetic that the stadium that haunted us last season in the playoffs, Inter Miami comes back with retribution and puts on such a good performance. I thought there were individual standout performances. Absolutely. Some players were phenomenal in the spotlight, undeterred. We spoke about it last time, but the academy keeps shining every single time the spotlight is on them. But as a team overall, we played so well defensively, offensively, in the midfield, just competed across the pitch. We had injury concerns. We had to switch things around time and again. But every single time a player was asked to do a job, they did it and they rose to the occasion. Hats off to every single Inter Miami player right now. Hats off to Javi Marciano, the coaching staff, the way they set this team up. I think coming into the second half, again, what an absolute change of mindset. And from the first minute, Inter Miami needed to put the foot on the pedal, accelerate, get the goal early, and that's exactly what they did. And what a well-constructed goal as well. I have so many thoughts from the first half to the second half, but I think overall, as a package, I think it needs to be commended how well Inter Miami performed. Everyone who said Inter Miami is going to get embarrassed, Inter Miami is not going to be able to compete, we're going to get our butts handed to us in the Club World Cup. Where are you now? Where are you now? We played 2
Nick,
games. We've competed in both of them, and we've now won one and drawn one. 4 points.
Nick Smith says, "Holy smokes, I can't breathe." I want you to know my heart is racing so fast right now. That entire second half was just a adrenaline rush from the first moment Segovia puts in the back of the net till basically this very second. I told you, and we talked about it a lot in the pregame show, it's all about the moments. When you get a half chance, are you going to put it away? Inter Miami gets some real clear-cut opportunities in that first half. One early with Luis Suarez that he puts into the chest of Claudio Ramos, who, by the way, had a great game in goal for Porto. But the shot by Talasco Segovia was the sort of half chance that gets you a result in a way that a lot of teams in this tournament haven't gotten. We saw Samu in that second half. He had a header. He had a shot from sort of the edge of the box that was laid off to him on a chest to him. And he put the ball 6 yards high, right? Like it wasn't even close. And when we got that moment, it was Talasco Segovia with a banger. If he just puts that on target, it's going to get saved. He has to put that into the top corner, and he does. He gets the lead for Inter. He gets the equalizer for Inter Miami, and then 7 minutes later, Lionel Messi. Dude, I've been saying for 6 months that the reason Inter Miami has a chance in this group is because they have the best player in the group, and he was the best player in that moment. We talked about in the pregame show. He needs to have that moment, and if he does, I think we win. And if he doesn't, who knows? He has the moment. Inter Miami wins. I don't even know. I'm still so hyped. You just talk for a second.
We've seen him do this so many times. He had one chance right before that, so far out that free kick. And I was like, well, he's going to try it, obviously. But I don't think this is going to go in. And it was close. And then
Dude,
the second one. Yeah, the one
before.
before.
That was That was Matthias Rojas territory.
Yeah,
The next one was
absolutely.
Messi territory.
I was like, he's gonna score. He could score this, but I don't think he will. And then the next one, as soon as we got that free kick on the edge of the box, I was like, yeah, it's in. It's absolutely in. And my goodness, no, dude, I was screaming for this team to stop going central. It constantly felt like every time we had opportunities to go out wide, Busquets was just passing it off to Messi in the middle. He was running through straight into the fortress that Porto had set themselves. And there was so much space out wide. There was just one player who needed to be brave, take the ball and run the flanks. The one who would actually do that would be Ian Frey, but he was playing centre back. And as soon as you did that in the second half, the first opportunity you got, you made a goal. That's why you need to push your players in the wings and make sure you run at the wings when there's space out there. But then after that, it just felt like Inter Miami was in cruise control for 90% of this game. And yes, Porto had a fair few opportunities in the first half, more so than the second half, but they were all half chances.
A couple.
Yeah, they were all half chances. Rodrigo Mora, I thought, was really good in moments, had some really nice skills and stuff, but he was locked down. He was completely locked down.
What did we say in the pregame show? Vieira, Vega, and Rodrigo Mora. You put a body on them, you hip check them, you shoulder to shoulder, they will get worse as the game goes on. And that's exactly what happened. One of them had to get taken off. We saw Fabio Vieira gets the nutmeg on Messi and then immediately kicks it out of bounds. Like, you could get into that team's head with your physicality, and Inter Miami pulled it off. It was exactly what they needed to do. I totally agree with. I understand your point about getting wide, but I also understand why the team played very conservatively with their fullbacks, because you didn't want to give anything up going the other way.
Yeah, but I think it was less to do with the fullbacks, but more to do with like some of the players just taking the ball out wide when there was space, because there were players there who were available, but we just kept going central regardless.
We haven't done a good job of getting wide play, real quality from the wide areas outside.
We don't
of our
have
fullbacks
any
this year.
natural wingers,
but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
this is about celebration.
The one player I do want to shout out, and I think it may get lost in the occasion, Benjamin Kromaski, game of his absolute life. He was phenomenal. He played 3 different positions in that game. He was so underrated. He was everywhere, every single place on this pitch. I think he'd be my man of the match in terms of just somebody who had the the best game. Did not get a goal or an assist, but just did everything right.
Especially in the second half.
And I think he may have earned himself a move just by that performance. He was just so good. So good.
Kermatt, I totally agree, especially in that second half. He didn't. I don't think he had to put a foot wrong in that second half. And to do it at three positions, we saw him in the preseason play 5, 10, 15 minutes of right back. And in a 5 to 10 minute period, he looked out of place. Here he is in the biggest 5 to 10 minute period of his life, and he locks it down. I guess it was like 25 minutes, really, when Ian Frey comes off. And Jerry agrees. Player of the game, Messi, with a big second to starting Kremla. The other player I really wanted to shout out was Talasco Segovia. Again,
my player of the match.
In the second half, phenomenal. So good on the ball. In the first half, too, he was really good. The physicality, the hustle, I mean, and then the quality. Like, that's the guy we dreamed about when we signed him.
It's all about... Okay, so the narrative is... And sorry to cut you off there, but the narrative is that the European team's really good with the ball, very silky, very smooth. Inter Miami was bossing that middle of the park in the first half, and less so in the second half because the game nature changed. But in that first half, in the middle of the park, Sergio Busquets, much better game than last time around. He was very good at taking the ball around. But him and Segovia together were just playing in pockets, and Porto was trying to press them, and they just come out of the middle with passing through them and through the lines and through the pockets of spaces. Segovia did that so well, just occupying really good spaces on the pitch, offering himself in areas that were unoccupied, and then he just passed it off to Messi or Sergio Busquets and just keep the game flowing. The problem was we were keeping the ball in the middle too much, but regardless, I think Segovia, with the way he plays in that middle, I do not ever want to see him on that left-hand side again. And thank goodness this game he was playing in that middle, because we needed him there to just make sure we protected the ball. And him and Busquets together were, I think, a revelation.
I want to talk about something, but I think this will lead us into it. Upcode says Falcone with the crazy line clearing save. Luis Garcia says Maxi was so damn clutch with that block off the line. Maxi Falcone, that moment was huge. I mean, obviously, he saves a goal. Rodrigo Mora is stunned. He thinks he's beating the goalkeeper, and it's obviously not a goal. But beyond that, the center back partnership throughout this game, and it changed when Aviles comes on because Ian Frey has to go to right back, and then they don't make the switch to Noah Allen when Jordi Alba comes on, which I was kind of thinking like maybe Noah Allen and Maxi Falcone go to center back, Toto Aviles goes to right back, but I didn't want to do that because then you lose the size of Toto in the middle. Nailed it in terms of Javier Mascherano. Absolutely nailed it. These two center backs, well, I guess three when Toto Aviles comes on, were exceptional against a very difficult to contain striker in Samu. There was one moment where he got the opportunity in the first half to sort of turn and run at Ian Frey. Ian Frey does a really good job with it. Samu gets a shot off, but it's right at Oscar Starry at a narrow angle, so really not much he could have done. Exceptional. Even Oscar Starry almost saves the penalty. This was up and down the lineup. I thought a tremendous performance. Tadeo Allende, maybe the one guy I would have some criticism of, but especially in that first half, but really like exceptional across the board.
Yeah, I think the midfield and the defense especially was just hot sauce, as he would call it. It was exceptional. Ian Frey in the first 30 seconds. So by the way, I switched on the game and I was 6 minutes late. So I turned it on and we'd already got the penalty because I thought we were the MLS. We were on the MLS schedule, and apparently not. So I was very gutted. But I think in the first 10 minutes, I saw Ian Frey with the ball just completely cornered by the Porto players. I was like, he's cornered himself into a tough spot. How's he going to get out of it? Just dribbles past, one pirouette here, one pirouette there, and just calmly passes it along to Sergio Busquets. And I was like, he's born to play this game. He's born to play the centre-back role. Just so good. And for two players who haven't played much together in Maxi Falcone and Ian Frey, they locked down today. Maxi Falcone, after that first half performance against Al Ahly, I think he may have got an absolute talking to from Javier Mascherano, because he's been a transformed player in the last 3 halves that he's played. Exceptional.
Elmer says sad Frey and Cello went out with an injury. Upcoach says, by the way, we have no right backs left. Listen, we don't want to overreact because I would guess Cello's going to be fine.
I think he
I
had a
don't know
dead
about
leg.
Ian Frey.
I
Yeah,
think Cello
maybe.
had a
Or
dead leg,
just,
yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's going to be something that's going to keep him out on Monday. Ian
Ian
Frey
Frey
will get the
maybe,
diagnosis when it comes out. Jordi Alba, he pulls up, but he looked fine by the end of the game, I thought. So we'll see. But hopefully Yannick Bright comes back. And then the other
Dude, we did
part of
this
that,
without Yannick Bright. Can you believe that? Can you
the other
believe
part
that?
of this, it's because Kramaski played phenomenal
Yeah.
in the midfield. The other part of that, we got, like we talked about in the pregame show and like we were praying for all week, a very kind referee when it came to sort of ticky-tack fouls. He wasn't giving them. I thought it was hugely beneficial to Inter Miami. And there was no yellow cards in this game, which was also hugely beneficial. So guys that were on yellow cards, Toto Aviles, Federico Redondo, Luis Suarez, Sergio Busquets, I might be forgetting someone. We're all clean. Nobody suspended for that third game. And now Inter Miami gets a chance to go play Palmeiras to win the group. I just want everyone to know. I texted
say
Sora.
that. Say that again, please. Say that one more time.
I texted Sora on Monday after watching Palmeiras Porto and then some of the other games that day, and I said, I think we can win the group. Here we are, playing Palmeiras to win the group. Now, I will say, a draw doesn't win us the group because they had a 2-goal advantage against Al Ahly, and we win 2-1. So a draw will see both teams through on 5 points, but we would go in as the second place team. They would go in the first place team. And based on Atletico Madrid's 4-0 crushing to PSG in that first game, based on Botafogo not looking good against Seattle Sounders, we could convince ourselves that there's something there if things bounce our way, which means Monday night is not just a let's draw, let's shake hands and get a draw. It's let's go win that game. And after what we saw tonight, where I thought we outplayed Porto for 85 minutes, and the times they outplayed us, it was when we were sitting back closing out the game. I'll take that on the field against Palmeiras, and we'll see what we got. I don't think Palmeiras has a ton of goal scorers, and I think Inter Miami does. So it'll all come down to the moments, but I'm ready for that game right now. Let's do it.
I will say Palmeiras is going to be the toughest game that we play. Obviously, I think they're definitely better than Al Ahly. They're better than Porto. So it's going to be very, very difficult. And again, I think these last 2 games have shown that you have to play your game. You can't be intimidated by the opposition. You can't play into their hands. Respect them, but don't fear them. That's going to be my motto for the next week. We should think that we can win that game now. We deserve to think that we can win that game now. And that's how it should be.
At halftime of the Al Ahly game, there was like a conversation in the locker room, like, guys, what are we doing? We belong here. Why are we playing so bad? And they absolutely responded in the second half. And that carried through this game. I think it's going to carry through the Palmeiras game and however long this tournament goes for us. Thomas says the commentators kept saying Porto were clearly the better team in the first half, but I never really felt that they were that threatening. At worst, I thought it was an even game. Really, I thought there was 2 chances for both sides, and I think the commentators were letting their bias get a little ahead of themselves.
I will say, I think
that too.
Porto had a specific game plan in mind, and they were willing to let Inter Miami have the ball a little bit. They were a bit more threatening in the final third, but I don't think they were head and shoulders above Inter Miami in the first half by any means. They got lucky with that penalty, and they had so much space to play with in the middle of the park, but they never used it. Like, they never ran at us, which was really surprising. And I think that's a very Portuguese league mindset, because if this was a MLS team, they would have ran with that space. I could totally imagine Denny Bouanga using that space in the middle to come at us, and maybe that could have created more problems for Inter Miami. But I think it was Porto's plan to, as soon as they got the first goal, they kind of sat back and played a little bit conservative, which worked in our favor, honestly, because in the second half, they didn't know what hit them.
Upcoat says, apparently we are a second half team, just like Julian Gressel said. The job's not done.
Of course
they are not through to the next round yet. Inter Miami and Palmeiras sit on 4 points, and Al Ahly and Porto sit on 1, which means if the winner of that game, Al Ahly versus Porto, will also have 4 points, depending on the score line, could be equal with an Inter Miami or a Palmeiras and eliminate one of those teams. So Monday's game, we're not through. That game still matters. If you get a point there, you're through. And 3 points wins you the group. But they're not through yet. The job's not done. And as excited as we're going to be for the next 25 minutes, starting tomorrow morning, like the job's not done. We got to get back to it. And I hope the guys are already sort of like having their 20-minute celebration and then sort of starting to watch the film of this morning's game.
And here's the thing, right? We could just be content in winning this game and being like, okay, this is what the most we wanted from the Club World Cup was to beat one of these teams, get a draw, put on a good showing, and that's it. But I think now the expectations keep getting pushed up and up and up because now you expect to qualify. You want to qualify. You've seen that you're more than deserving to be here. You've seen that you're capable of beating one of the biggest teams in this tournament. Well, not one of the biggest teams in the tournament, but a big European team. And you've proven that you belong. So why not just keep pushing? And you need to lock in starting tomorrow morning because there's another game to play still.
I don't even know where to go with this because I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about what this means for Inter Miami. I want to talk about what this means for the tournament. I want to talk about Palmeiras. I want to
Let's
talk about
keep
everything.
all of that for tomorrow's game. Today we focus on the emotions in the chat because there's a lot of people in the chat wanting to share the emotions. Let's keep analysis out of it today, I think.
Nick says our back line died for this win. The effort from guys like Noah Allen, Maxi Falcone, Ian Frey, Cello Wiegand, by the way, defensively, exactly what we asked for. That moment where he goes, I think it was Fabio Vieira, and he goes and he stands over him and he's like, get up. You know, this isn't what you think this is. This is our type of game. That was exactly what we were asking for when we did the preview show, when we talked about this in the pregame. This was going to be for Inter Miami, a game where we're going to knock you down and then we'll help you up because we know we're going to knock you down again. And that was the way we were going to wear this Porto team down. And then by the end, the substitutes couldn't help them. Their front line didn't have it. They weren't clinical. They weren't able to put the ball on target when they needed to. And our defense was, because they put all the work in the first 75 minutes of the game, able to close it out in the last 20. Hats off to the defense, man.
So good, man. Cello Wiegand, of course, I think he carried the momentum from the last game into this one. He was very good. Very, very good. Ian Frey in that centre-back did not give Samu a sniff. I think Samu had one free header the entire game. Maxi Falcone just everywhere, shutting everything down, closing down the bodies, blocking shots, that goal line clearance, brilliant. Noah Allen, great performance. I don't think the penalty was on him by any means. I don't even think that was a penalty.
It's not
so very unfair, but great performance from him. And then the midfield, I think, just protected the backline even more so by keeping the ball, not giving the ball away in unnecessary positions. I think the entire setup was just so well done, and it feels like we're once again fighting like a team. I think it's almost the underdog tag almost works in our favor because we play with a little bit of abandon and no concern about living up to expectations. So when we don't have to be the team that sets the initiative, that sets the standards in a game, we just go out and prove everyone wrong. That's, I think, the best place for this Inter Miami team to be. And I think once we go back into the MLS, we're going to be that team who everyone wants to beat. I don't know how we deal with that pressure, but at least at this point in time, it looks like this team is exactly.
Forget about the
I think
MLS.
This team is really enjoying the underdog tag and just fighting for their lives to get the results, and that's working really well.
Seattle, okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but if Inter Miami can beat Palmeiras, they'll top the group. They'll play the second place team from Group B, which would be either Botafogo or Atletico Madrid. Seattle's playing Atletico Madrid today, and that will be a very interesting case study to see what an MLS team looks like up against them. Wookie says, can this finally put an end to the relentless Miami didn't really qualify? We said it after the first game, but now there's no doubt Inter Miami belongs in this tournament.
Not just belongs, we're the only undefeated MLS team in this tournament. We're the only MLS team that has won a game. We're the only MLS team that has points on the board. So of course we deserved to
Not
qualify,
not
and
just
of
MLS
course
though,
we
the whole
belong.
confederation,
Not
right?
just
Listen,
the no whole confederation.
Monterrey got a draw against Inter Milan, which is just as
Phenomenal.
impressive as a win against
Yeah.
Porto. But and Pachuca played a nice game against Salzburg, although they did fall. This is as good as a result as anyone's had in
Game of the
CONCACAF.
tournament for
Yeah.
the confederation so far.
And in fact, we talked about this in the pregame show. No non-European team had beaten a European team yet. It was a lot of really good games. Fluminense outplayed Dortmund. Palmeiras outplayed Porto. But Inter Miami is the one that breaks through and gets 3 points against a European team. And they were talking about this at the end of the game. If Porto doesn't get through this group, it'll be considered a huge failure for them. And I don't think that's the case because Porto is not one of the 2 best teams in this group. It's simply that's just what it is.
No, that's absolutely correct. And I think we haven't internalized this, but do you know how huge this result is for Inter Miami as a global brand? For teams that, or for fan bases that don't actually follow Inter Miami on a regular basis and do only watch European football, they would expect Porto to absolutely destroy Inter Miami. And the fact that we've gone out there, we've scored, FIFA Club World Cup authorities can now clip up that Messi free kick and rinse and repeat and use that for likes and comments and stuff. But we've proven that on the world stage, when the world is watching, Inter Miami can actually play a game of football and win against European powerhouses. This is a team from Portugal that has won more than 85 titles. I think this is the 3rd most decorated team in Europe. It's insane. And the fact that a 6-year-old club can end up doing this is it's such a moment of pride for us as fans. And this may be the most important win of our history, not in terms of the result, but in terms of what it means for us as a brand. And that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
You know what's cool? We just beat Porto, and it doesn't feel like the hardest, biggest, best win we've ever had in our life.
Exactly.
We just beat Porto.
We expected to. And anyone who watched our pregame show and thought these bozos have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, I urge you to go rewatch that. And I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, but we made some really exactly the analysis that we made is how the game played out in terms of what Inter Miami needed to do to win this. And that's nothing to do with us, but it goes to show that we were expecting Inter Miami to go put on a performance. Now the result could have gone either way, but it wasn't like we were going into this game thinking, "Oh, it's all up to God and luck." Absolutely not. There was always a chance.
Luck was on Porto's side, and by the way, it's not us that are like prophetic. We just watched Porto and we looked into Porto, and we saw this team is beatable. And I think it goes to this larger mindset of if a team's from Europe, they're just incredible. They're so much more talented, so much bigger, faster, whatever, than all the other countries. And this tournament, I think, has showed over the course of 90 minutes that's not true. But as I just mentioned, the big moments have either gone the way of the European club or not gone the way of the South American club. And there's been a lot of draws that have seen the South American and North American clubs play better, but not get the moment they needed to win the game. This one, though, this is the one that we broke through as a hemisphere, really, with Segovia and Messi. And I thought that Segovia goal was so important just to get the ball in the back of the net, show that you can do it, and you weren't going to get it easy. You had to have that perfect shot, and that's exactly what Segovia brought. Now, when I was a kid, growing up, I was a huge college football fan. And for about 15 years, Alabama, the Crimson Tide, were the best team in college football. And every Saturday, they would have a game day where people would bring signs and they would say, "We want Bama." I'm starting to feel that way about PSG. And TP says that as well.
I would love to play PSG, man. Absolutely love to play PSG.
I'd rather play Botafogo in this next round. But Anton says, "I will never complain about cello again." Fantastic. Warrior today.
I mean, yeah, maybe a couple of months later we can still complain about him when he has a bozo tackle against Dallas FC or somebody. But what a game for him today. Phenomenal.
Lots of praise for Benjamin Kramaski. Lots of praise for Scotty. I also want to say the way they controlled the game from like the 55th to the 70th minute, where they were just controlling possession really casually, really calmly, and just took 15 minutes off the board in the snap of a finger. Like the professionalism of that 15-minute period, I thought was so impressive. I would have loved to get a third goal in there, but the fact that they could just take a couple substitutions from Porto as they tried to rearrange this game. They switched formations at one point, and Inter Miami just handled it really well until and then finally they sat back maybe the last 20 minutes or so. I really was impressed with the team's ability to do that, considering we're talking about really young players, Toto Aviles and Noah Allen and Ian Frey and Federico Redondo and those types of guys. Like they handled themselves with such professionalism.
Yeah, and I'm just reading some of Messi's quotes, and he's saying that we were a little bit unlucky to go down in the first half, and it's a new experience for these youngsters who are playing on the world stage for the first time. So they had a nerve-wracking first half, but we kept our composure and went into the second half thinking we can actually take this game to Porto. I think over the course of 180 minutes, the word that I would use, borrowing from you, is professionalism. Inter Miami in the first half against Al Ahly was under the cosh, really struggling because Al Ahly was taking the game to us. Second half, kept our heads, kept our cool, played our game, played a very professional second half, should have won that game in the second half. This game went down early, unlucky, nothing in that penalty, almost saved it, but still, that's how football works. Sometimes you just have to lose. And
Luis
then
goes,
we
my
ended
man
up
took the
coming
day
up.
off specifically to watch this game and then missed the start of the game.
That's the story. That's the story of my life. Story of my life. It's okay though. It didn't matter because the periods that I watched was when Inter Miami scored. So that's more important than anything else.
No, I was the same way. I missed the first 12 seconds, but all of a sudden I was like closing up and getting the raw reaction ready, and all of a sudden the game kicked off in the background. I'm like, oh, I should probably do this at halftime.
Watch, yeah.
Yeah, it was quick. Tunde says we freaking won and deserved it too, and I think that's the coolest part about this is like this is not a fluke. You mentioned it; it's not a smash and grab. Inter Miami was the better team over 90 minutes. They deserved a 2-1 victory, and maybe even a little bit better than that. And when you think about it like that, I'm more than happy to take that performance and the confidence level and the talent level that we just saw on the field, and let's go head to head with Palmeiras, and let's go head to head in the next round. Like I'm about it. Now we have to take care of business against Palmeiras and get through, but you couldn't have more confidence if you're an Inter Miami fan right now. Like this is, in terms of confidence, this is an all-time high.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just to put the highlight under the sentence, Inter Miami is the first MLS team to ever win in the Club World Cup.
Say that. I'm sorry.
Inter Miami is the first MLS team to register a win in the Club World Cup.
We beat a European giant to do it. Now, so maybe you know the answer.
Champions League winner.
Yeah, true. Tunde says if Porto beats Al Ahly, then we go through. Is the tiebreaker goal differential or head-to-head? I don't know the answer to that.
I think it's goal differential first, then head-to-head, but I would not bet my money on it. It could be either ways.
Because if it is head-to-head first,
then
we got to be feeling really good.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. I can't confirm that. Nick Smith says Inter Miami is the first team outside of Europe to beat a European team in the World Cup since Corinthians and Chelsea in 2012. First team in the Club World Cup to beat a European team from outside Europe in 13 years. That's what Inter Miami just did. Shalom, says Fab. We can say La Brujeria de Gressel is gone. Second half, and I think the coolest thing is we grip better in the second half.
Sorry, I think it's head-to-head in the games between the teams in question as the second tiebreaker. Third is the goal difference. So I'm just looking at the ESPN website. So we might actually be in a much better chance than we're giving ourselves.
Well, if that's the case, then we have a 3-goal differential advantage against Al Ahly right now. So Al Ahly wouldn't just have to beat Porto; they would have to crush them. Wait, does that mean that that Porto's eliminated? No, they need us to win, and they'd have to jump Palmeiras.
Inter Miami can only be eliminated if Al Ahly beat FC Porto. It will then come down to goal difference between Al Ahly. Okay, it will come down
for
to goal
Porto,
difference.
Porto's only hope is that Inter Miami beats Palmeiras.
If Inter
And then they
Miami
go
lose
over
and FC
Palmeiras.
Porto win, Inter Miami is second on head-to-head.
Say that again.
So
Okay,
if FC
I understand.
Porto, if Porto wins,
Damn,
Inter Miami's
dude.
through. If Al Ahly wins, it comes down to goal difference.
But for Porto, they're not eliminated
No.
because if we beat Palmeiras, they can still jump Palmeiras on goal differential.
Yeah. This is all about Inter Miami. We're so close. We're so close.
When was the last time we smiled this hard during a post-game show before Saturday night? Upcoach says, so we can just play for the tie. If we tie, we come in second in the group. Now,
Upcode, you just watched Inter Miami beat Porto. Why would you say they'll play for the tie? We go for the win. We go for the win. It's possible. I know Palmeiras is better, but we
want to win the group.
Yeah.
Go win the group.
Absolutely.
Dude, what is happening right now?
I have no idea.
Miami just beat Porto. Okay, let's get back to some individual performances. Ian Frey. One of the things I was thinking about in the first 10 minutes was that in game one, Inter Miami looked a little bit nervous, and the thing they did was push the ball high to Ian Frey down that right side. And that was sort of the calming presence to get the ball out of dangerous areas against them, and also to sort of get something going offensively to feel out what Al Ahly was doing. In this game, Ian Frey playing center back, they didn't really have that outlet. And so I thought as they were figuring out how this game was going to play, they didn't really have someone to go to. They didn't really get started. I guess Messi had a moment to Suarez, but I don't know. I guess I'm curious about how you think Inter Miami has started the first 10 minutes of the last two games. Maybe it's colored because of the penalty for this game, but I was thinking like that was probably our worst 10 minutes of the game was the first 10. But maybe it's just because of the penalty.
Well, you're forgetting I missed the first 10 minutes, so I can't really tell you. Okay. But I will say we didn't necessarily crumble after conceding that penalty. I thought Inter Miami continued to do what their game plan was, and they didn't buckle under the pressure. If this was 3 weeks ago, I would have said Inter Miami would basically end up conceding like 7 goals against Porto after going 1-0 down in the first 10 minutes. But we kept our calm, kept our composure, trusted the game plan, and came out on top. So I don't know how we played in the first 10 minutes, but I think immediately after the penalty, we didn't panic and stuck to the plan, which was really good.
KLV says, Vamos, the mindset of this club changed, shorthanded versus Columbus. What an effort. Can I take you back a week earlier? Because the free kick goal scored by Messi in Philadelphia that turns into a come-from-behind draw on the road against the top team in the Eastern Conference. You blow out Montreal, then you blow out Columbus, and then you come into this tournament and beat up Al Ahly in the second half. And then I thought outplayed Porto today. The moment Messi gave that interview, but more importantly, the moment he hits the free kick against Philadelphia, this has been a changed team. I have been very quick to give him credit as a captain and for the locker room adjustment that I think everyone's been playing with more confidence and more concentration. But, oh man, like we talked about how that could change the season or it could mean nothing. And right now it looks like it's going to save the season or change the season for Inter Miami.
I also want to give a little bit of credit to Ave Mascherano. We've been very critical of him. Yeah. A lot critical. We wanted him gone. And we kept saying, if he can turn it around, we'll be more than happy that he's staying. And honestly, he's starting to turn this around. He's doing really well game by game basis. And he's prepared this team fantastically for this tournament, at least. How much of that has to do with the fact that Gonzalo Lujan is not starting? I don't know. But there's obviously now a correlation between Ian Frey starting the first 8 games of the season and us being unbeaten. And then Ian Frey starting the last few games in the recent weeks, and Inter Miami just winning everything. And also Lujan not starting the first 8 games and Lujan not starting the last few games. So there's a correlation.
I agree with you. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to make this about Lujan. Let's
No.
get to the next one. Bench Suarez says, honest review, and we can easily beat any team in the world. Today, Allende, I thought was really poor, especially in the first half. And that basically took away all of our verticality because Suarez doesn't give you that. I think for Suarez to be at his best, you need Allende to be at his best. And he was really poor today. And I know that sounds weird, but Suarez wasn't as impactful from a goal scoring perspective. He did get the chance in the 7th minute, but maybe you missed that.
I saw it.
Okay.
I saw the replays. It was also offside, but yes.
Well, was it? Anyways, I don't know, Suarez. Like, he's not going to get benched. He's playing every minute of the tournament, and I hope everyone just comes to terms with that. But I don't know. What do you think of his performance?
I want to decouple Allende and Suarez. I don't want to let Suarez off the hook just because Allende had a good game. I agree with you on that point. Bad game, sorry. I agree with you on that point that Allende wasn't great and that didn't necessarily help Suarez, but I think overall as well, Suarez had a poor game. He didn't have a fantastic game. He was slow to certain balls. He was constantly coming deep and just killing the attack. There were a couple of instances where I was shouting, just turn around and pass it forward, and he just passed it back to the defenders. He was slow, did not offer much verticality. We've talked about that, but that's not his game. Regardless, I still think he was lacking a bit of sharpness compared to the rest of the squad. And I think the front three, or the front two, I guess, because Messi was playing behind and it was the two of Allende and Suarez, were the worst part about that first half. Eventually, Suarez did a little bit better, but I think he had a poor game. Allende was, I think, the worst player on the pitch for me for Inter Miami and did not have a good game at all. But it's okay. Overall, Inter Miami played really well as a team, so that got cancelled out. But both Allende and Suarez, I don't think had a great game.
Upcoach says, has Masha actually figured out how to use our players? He
does
does
have
his
a choice
best when we're limited, right?
Yeah. When we have less players available, he does great. When we have all players available, he doesn't do great.
Sean makes a great point. Let's not forget, this is a huge prize money game. Every game in this competition is worth a lot of money. I think Inter Miami we got our head around the 10 million we were going to get for participating, but not just getting a draw and a win, but potentially getting to the next round. I want to see a big transfer in the summer window, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Not Neymar, though.
No, I want to go buy someone for $15 million. Yeah. Let's go get a stud. Forget Brian Rodriguez. Let's go get the next Ricky Puig, right? TP says 2023 Leagues Cup vibes. KLV says tiebreakers. A lot of people are saying tiebreakers head to head, which puts Inter Miami in a phenomenal position. I trust you guys. You saw it on ESPN. Like, this is huge because that makes it very difficult for Inter Miami to not get through. It would have to be really unlucky for Inter Miami to go through. Now, there's still all to play for because if you win, you top the group, and that I think is worthwhile. But we might be moving that Atlanta game back a couple days.
It's so simple because all four teams are playing at the same time. So Inter Miami Palmeiras is kicking off at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Same for Al Ahly versus Porto. If Al Ahly wins, then Palmeiras is guaranteed to go through. If Porto wins, then Inter Miami is guaranteed to go through. And then the rest depends on the goal difference for the other team. So honestly, it's fairly simple for Inter Miami, and it's all stacked up really well. Al Ahly will really have to beat Porto by at least, I think, 2 or 3 goals. Actually, more because they lost 2-0 to Palmeiras.
No, but it depends on what Inter Miami's goal differential is. Like, if Inter Miami loses by 3 goals, and they just have to win.
Then
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Upcode says if we're second place, then we're definitely playing PSG. Did you mean first? If we come in first place, we're playing the winner of Group B, which looks like it's going to be PSG. If we come in first place, I'm sorry. If we come in second, we'll probably play PSG. If we come in first, we'll play the winner of today's game, probably, again, all likelihood, between Atletico and Botafogo. And I saw I saw Gregory the other day, and I saw his team really against the ropes against the Seattle Sounders. If Inter Miami does that with Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez, they're going to put 4 on that team. So, like, it's worthwhile to try and win the group. And I know they're going to compete because they're competitors, but the difference could be huge. And if you're talking about Inter Miami team going to the quarterfinals of this tournament, I never thought I would ever say that in a million years. Like, that has never been on the table in my brain in any way. And yet now that we're here, and now that we've proven we belong, and now that we're going to be running with a lot of confidence and hopefully getting a couple guys back, right? Yannick Bright, a longer game from Jordi Alba. Like, this, it's all starting to come together for Inter Miami. And you don't even forget our secret weapon, Baltasar Rodriguez, who gets an assist every 18 minutes. So this couldn't be unfolding better. And I want to go back to our conversation after the Al Ahly game, where Inter Miami fans should have felt good about that. And I was really sad to see a bunch of people thinking, oh, we missed our one opportunity or whatever, because this team can compete in this tournament. They can go beat Palmeiras. And these teams are not juggernauts. Maybe we'll get to that at some point in this tournament. But even Palmeiras, who I do think is the best team in this group, they have trouble scoring goals. Like, they don't have one guy that's just going to make it happen every single game. So, like, it's there for Inter Miami. It really is.
I think Palmeiras, the biggest danger is that they have so much individual talent that they could just have that click moment immediately and change the game. So that's the biggest worry. But otherwise, it doesn't, like, Inter Miami's group has honestly been really good and evenly matched so far. Well, now Inter Miami is obviously better than Al Ahly and Porto, but still, it's a very well-matched group to the point that I don't think anyone would call us crazy for thinking that Inter Miami could beat Porto before this game. At least if you'd seen the matches and if you'd seen the games, how they played out.
Okay. Give me your final thoughts. I'm going to run through the chat and see if there's any other talking points we didn't get to, because my mouse is about to die and I think we probably got to wrap it up soon. But I'm on cloud 9, honestly. That was a great, fun game to watch, and Inter Miami is absolutely at the table in this tournament, and I'm so ready for the next game. This has been an incredibly fun tournament. Okay, I'll give my final thoughts at the end, but let me run through the chats real quick.
Buff your chest up. That's what I'm going to say to Inter Miami fans. Your team actually showed that they deserve to be here. They deserve to be in this tournament. They beat a European powerhouse, and not just beat them by the scruff of their necks. They didn't just beat them through a smash and grab. We deserve to win this game over the course of 90 minutes. Phenomenal performance. Be proud of every single player who was on that pitch today and put everything that they had to make sure that Inter Miami wins. Be proud of your team, and anyone who tells you otherwise, anyone who says this tournament doesn't matter, anybody who says that Porto's at the end of their season, anyone who gives excuses for Inter Miami winning this game, do not listen to them. No. Inter Miami did a historical thing tonight, and this can never be taken away from us. That being said, let's go and beat Palmeiras.
Okay, I got a couple more. First, Terry says, is this the biggest win in history for Inter Miami? And then I just wanted to point this one out for you. Upcode says, great point. So I don't know when he said that 21 minutes ago, but
I make a lot of those, so it's okay.
Is it the biggest win in Inter Miami history?
I think there's two contexts to this. There's a context about winning tournaments, trophies. In that case, maybe not. Perhaps the Supporter Shield, perhaps the Leagues Cup, whatever you want to pick. That is perhaps the biggest win for Inter Miami. This is the biggest win in terms of showcasing our brand on the global stage and telling people that we belong. Historically, we will always be able to say, remember that first Club World Cup that Inter Miami played, and we beat FC Porto in that tournament. We got through the group stage when nobody gave us a chance. In that sense, in terms of what this means for prestige, for global honors, I think this is the biggest win that Inter Miami has had so far in its young history.
I need Inter Miami to go win the CONCACAF Champions Cup, not for their own regional dominance, but because this is so much fun, and I need to have this again in 4 years. Shrod says, why is Mascherano always sub Segovia around the 70th minute? He's young, he's having his best game, and he still sits him. That was the moment they went from we're going to kind of control possession, and maybe we'll if we get an opportunity, we'll push it forward. 2, we're going to sit back and try and see this game out. What do you think of the decision?
I think it's understandable. I thought Redondo played well. We reinforced the midfield a little bit. It took away some of our ball playing ability, but that was fine. You can't really criticize the decision when it goes in our favor and we see the result out. So I understand why Javi Mascherano takes him out. He does a lot of running, and sometimes you have to protect the players as well. But it turned out in the better, right? So no complaints from my side.
Tunde says it's either the Leagues Cup win versus Nashville or this game. I don't know. I think sometimes the biggest game, it depends on the sort of the nature of the way the game plays out. I think in terms of significance, those are the two. I think we've had some really fun games. That LAFC comeback win earlier this year was phenomenal. Yeah. The Open Cup semifinal game against Cincinnati will always be in my heart as one of the most fun games. But I think in terms of like significance for a club, this is right up there. Henry says, will Baltasar and Yannick Bright be ready for the next match? And then he says, we beat Porto, so why not Palmeiras? Baltasar is ready. He's healthy. He's ready to go. Yannick Bright has been working and doing individual drills, including up until yesterday's training session. That's what you do right before you get back to team training. Unfortunately, we also said that on Friday of last week, right before the Al Ali game, and thought he might be available for this game. 3 days. We have no idea if Yannick Bright's going to be available. Baltasar is available. David Ruiz, another guy in that individual training group. So we're not sure, but I don't think this team has a lot of depth. And again, I think we used it all. David Martinez was on the bench today, which was a nice bonus, but I don't think he was coming on. I don't think anyone else was coming. I think Javier Mascherano used the 4 guys he was comfortable using. And so hopefully we can get 1 or 2 back so he has real options next game. But Gonzalo Lujan won't be. So maybe we should end on a positive note.
I think so.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. This was an emotional, raw reaction from the Dry Pink Dialogue because this was an emotional, raw game for Inter Miami that they pull out and beat a European power, Porto, 2-1. And now they are so close to qualifying to the next round. Monday night, they will face Palmeiras to win the group, with an opportunity to win the group. We will be back tomorrow to break this game down, give out some awards and all of that good stuff. But until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Enjoy this win. Enjoy more of the Club World Cup. We will see you guys tomorrow. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.